Welcome to Miami, where it's 12 degrees inside this igloo.
I love it.
I didn't pack for this.
No.
I was lied to. I've been sold a lie. I've been freezing all weekend long.
Freezing all weekend.
I thought I came here to see the sun from the UK, from the rainy UK. And when I come here, clouds and rain and 12 degrees.
Well, let me ask you about that. So is this your first time here in Miami? You're here in Florida at all?
Yes and no, because I've been in Miami once before when I was 10.
10.
So I feel like that doesn't count.
I've been to Florida many times, but I've never been to Miami. It's nice. I mean, it's very similar climate to everything else, and I'm used to this kind of climate. So I don't know. I feel very comfortable.
What did you come to Florida for? Was it Disney? Did you go?
I just have family down here.
Oh, okay.
I live in Georgia, so it's kind of a natural trajectory.
Oh, right.
Most of my family members live in Florida, so it's like 6-hour, 8-hour drive just to go see them. So yeah.
When you do conventions like these, do you get a chance to actually get out and go see the sun and go do things, or is it usually just airport, convention center, hotel, back home?
I would love to say that I do get the chance to explore, and it's not that I don't have the time to, per se. I definitely do. I just am kind of like a 9-year-old trapped in a 19-year-old's body. I love to be in bed by like 9:30. Like I get sleepy, I get tired. I'm always ambitious. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go see this. I like to talk to locals, see what's cool around here. But then when the time comes, I'm like, but the bed looks so comfortable right now. So no, unfortunately, it is just airport, convention, airport.
Gabrielle, so I mean, as you said, you're 19 years old. I had no clue what was going on in my life when I was 19 years old. When did you realize that the entertainment industry, the film industry, was what you wanted to do?
Probably when I was 14.
Okay. Well, nobody, to make that decision at 14 and then be successful in such a short amount of time is almost unheard of.
Well, I think it's because of the mindset that I grew up with. I wasn't always an actor. I mean, being an actor was something that I was always interested in. It just felt very hard to get into and seemed unattainable. So I kind of just brushed it off to the side, and I didn't really pay it any mind, and I was pursuing ballet. So for quite a long time, I was a pre-professional ballet dancer, and that's what I wanted to do. But in that kind of industry, you have to make a decision at a very young age whether it is something you want to do or not, because there's a lot of dedication that you have to put into it. There's a lot of time, a lot of money, and it's quite little payoff. So you have to truly be passionate about it. So it was normal for me to kind of make the decision of what you're going to do for the rest of your life at a very young age.
Okay.
And I was wrong, and I'm glad I was wrong, because I love acting a lot more. I still love ballet, but not as a profession.
Do you still dance?
I do. I dance on my own time. It's something that will always be a part of my life. It's a wonderful form of expression, but acting, my first time on set and just being in front of a camera, it took away all of my anxiety. I have social anxiety, and I have this sounds horrible, but I have kind of performance anxiety. Thinking about it before going and doing it, I felt like I was gonna throw up, and I was very close to, until I actually got to my mark and started doing the scene, and all of it went away. Everyone went dark, and I was just focused on what I was doing, and that's when I was like, oh, I'm having fun for the first time. This is what I want to do now.
Marta, when did you realize that getting into acting, voice acting, motion capture, that a bunch of different things? When did you realize that this is what you wanted to do?
A bit later, but fun fact, I also did ballet.
What?
I did ballet.
No way.
I did over a decade of ballet, and then basically puberty made that decision for me because my body started changing, and there's a very certain aesthetic to professional ballet. But, I had the Russian teachers, I had the whole thing, so I deeply understand. What ballet gives you, is a lot of anxiety,
Welcome to Ballet 101.
Yep.
but
I love
also,
this.
I was
I'm
gonna
so
say,
excited.
a lot of anxiety, but a lot of discipline. And I
Yes.
think that in no small part, that probably played a big part in your success now. And I still, refer back to the discipline and the training and the daily dedication to sort of that physical side of the craft. But also the anxiety, I get it, because there's so much pressure on you to be perfect. Where in acting, there's pressure, but you're professionally just being.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. So I just really wanted to add that. I was like, hey, fellow ballerina.
I
Hey.
had no
I
idea.
know.
We have
I mean,
to
I
have a
don't
whole
look like it
conversation.
now, but, I can still bust out a split with a little bit of a warm-up.
With a little bit of warm-up, so
A
don't
little bit of
expect it right
warm-up.
now.
It's so, freakishly flexible feet, basically.
We're definitely gonna have a conversation.
Yeah, we're gonna
It's like
talk
an
about
in-depth
this.
conversation.
See, we were like, what are we going to talk about? Now we're just going to
Yeah,
talk
here we
about
go.
ballet for 45
Ballet.
minutes.
So everybody go to the bar, and I'm not talking the one with the drinks. Anyway, so the question was, when did I start realizing it? So I come from a really small country. I'm from Slovenia originally, despite how I sound. 2 million people in total. That means there's not a lot of people who come see you as a professional actor. But I was dancing ballet, and so that put me on stage. And I just sort of, very small, school productions, stuff. I enjoyed acting. And then life took me in different directions. I went to business school. I got my master's in that as well. I did what my parents told me, essentially, but I always had a creative side to it. I thought I was going to go into music and whatnot. Again, things changed. And then when I lived in London, I got a chance to basically be a volunteer zombie in an immersive theater production that was really good. It wasn't just a scare maze, like a lot of these zombie apocalypse immersive theater thing. It's literally just people going at you. It was actual theater, it was actual acting, and it was my first introduction to stunts as well. And so I kind of went crazy for it. And I started training in stunts. I did a lot of things as a kid. I was swimming and martial arts and stuff like that. So I had a really good baseline for stunts, the body awareness. And that took me closer through my love of games and Lord of the Rings, that took me into motion capture. Because motion capture, especially in Europe, the way it's treated, because we don't have such a strict delineation between actor and stunty, in motion capture, I'd be expected to do both. I'd be expected to do the full cinematic scenes and then go and fall over 20 times, so we have 20 different, animations of getting, shot, getting clubbed over the head, getting whatever it is. At one point, it's cannonball. I'm like, okay, well, I can't do that without help. At one point, we had... So there's this quite famous motion capture studio that's connected to Pinewood Studios. They're legendary studios where they shot James Bond and all that. They shoot all the big Marvel stuff. And so it's called Centroid. So I work at Centroid quite a lot, and they have this rugby tackle bag named Gilbert. And it's named Gilbert because it just, for some reason, I think that's the brand, but there's Gilbert written across it. And so somebody, when you need that kind of all 4 limbs off the ground kind of fall back, but you don't have a wire rig set up, somebody just runs at you with a Gilbert and just takes you out onto a crash mat. It's great. It doesn't hurt. Gilbert's nice and soft, but
I need to look this up, behind the scenes videos
Yeah, it's
on
really
YouTube.
funny.
I'm just going to be...
The amount of times they're also pretending to drag somebody across the floor and you're just dragging Gilbert. It's great. I digress. I do that a lot. So basically I got into motion capture, and then one thing led to another. People wanted to hire me. I just sort of started finding my way through it, and games has been my main thing. I also love games. It's just my heart and soul is in games, but I've also in recent years done a lot more film work. So I do a lot of independent film now, mainly action and horror. Yeah. So there's a few movies on Amazon Prime, and another one was just announced, which is St. Patrick's Day Massacre. It's basically Friday the 13th, but it's on St. Patrick's Day in Dublin. Things get a little wild and a little drunk.
I'm going to have to watch that. My birthday's on St. Patrick's Day.
Well, there you go. My birthday's 3 days later.
Are you serious?
Yeah, on March 20th.
Oh, I love that.
I'm like, what is that?
We're making BFFs.
Why is this the first time we're speaking?
My wedding anniversary is on St. Patrick's Day.
Really?
Yes.
We're all talking after this.
This
okay?
is
Yes, let's-
fantastic.
Just carry
my
on
God,
amongst
Marta,
yourselves.
this
We're just
is
gonna
nice.
our new BFF
We're all
group
tight.
group circle. Now both of you involved in in theater, in local theater, and plays and things like that?
Not so much.
I
Not
was
so much?
not. No,
No?
definitely not. I can't sing for the life of me, for one. So musical theater is out. I sound like a sacrificial goat.
Right. I hear
And
you.
then I tried just normal theater, and that didn't work out for me either. The closest thing I've gotten is like improv, like comedy,
Right.
and I really liked it,
Okay.
but I stopped. I was just like, I don't think I can do this.
Now,
I mean, it just it takes so much time. It's so all-encompassing with theater that you can't really do anything else, and the repetition starts getting to me. The repetitiveness of like every night, same thing over and over again. And some people love it because they're exploring the character.
Right.
I just have like part of my sweater on my face. I've done some of it, and I have a huge amount of respect for it. I go see it. Obviously, the UK has probably the greatest theater tradition in the world. There is nothing that I've seen that even comes close to what I've seen in terms of interpretation. Not just Shakespeare, but I mean just anything. It's next level. But for myself, I get really bored really fast. I'm like, I'm done with this character now. Moving on.
moving on. Now you mentioned one of the things you're getting into is horror movies, but you're yourself not necessarily a horror movie fan.
I'm such a coward. I watch horror like this, but acting in it, like I said, I was a zombie in that the apocalypse, like immersive theater experience, which was gruesome. Like we had audience plants where a pregnant lady gets bitten, and the group has to decide whether they, leave her behind or not, and things like that. Like, acting in it is next level. It's just really fun because you can let loose in a certain way. You can just go further than in any other genre in certain respects, and there's something incredibly fun about that. So yeah, so I will act in horror for the rest of my career if people will have me, but I can watch it.
Watch it.
Or play it.
I cannot relate. I love horror, and I've always loved horror ever since I was a little kid. I have to admit that I did watch a lot more horror when I was a child as opposed to now. Not for any particular reason. I just think I had more time back then. Now I'm a little more busy. But I remember always being fascinated by it, and I was never really scared. As a child, I should have been scared, and I remember my parents, they were showing me some of the movies that, like, I can't say that. Hold on, I can't. Ugh. I'm trying to filter myself right now with certain words. Hi, children. But that would scare the bejesus out of them. And I just remember as like a little 6-year-old just sitting there, and the moments where they would really build up, they're like, oh my God, this killed me, right? I'm just sitting there and I'm like, okay. I mean, that's fun, but I'm not really getting it. So I liked the look of it. I liked how weird everything looked, but I never really got scared by it. And I'm not gonna lie to you, most horror movies don't scare me, but I absolutely love them. I think that's part of the reason why I was really excited to be in a horror movie, because something that you said earlier about just absolutely being able to let go and be wild and do crazy stuff that you aren't, I guess, given permission to do in most scenarios. I kind of ran with that. I was like, let me do something absolutely insane.
Well, don't you find, like, on screen, on camera, like, everything has to be, when you're acting for camera, everything has to be, like, very small, very subdued. But horror gives you the chance to just go nuts at one point. Not all the time, obviously.
Yeah,
But
you have to be very mindful of, not walking out of frame or not doing anything too crazy, or if you're planning on doing something, you have to let them know so they can prepare for it. With this, it's just like you literally get handed just like the chance to be like, just go crazy, do whatever you want, we will get it, just you do you. So, I mean, you just get to be
so
spontaneous
rare.
with it.
It's super rare on screen to do that.
Are there any franchises? Obviously, the Evil Dead franchise is huge. Are there any franchises, horror movie franchises, that you would like to be a part of?
Oh, that's a great question. None that I can really think of. Now, I would love to be on so many of them. I mean, I really like all of like the classics. I would love to have some sort of like hand in that, but I don't think I could pick just one, honestly.
Marta, is there? I mean, and I know you're not
I mean, I'm
a
actually
fan,
I
but like
love The Evil Dead.
but be it.
So that's one. Yeah, no, and classics is obviously one. Resident Evil.
Yes.
Yeah, Resident Evil is just so freaking cool. It's just so cool. Like, yeah, that. Part of me, so for horror games, the one that really stuck with me was Outlast.
Okay.
Outlast, especially the first one.
Right.
Oh my God, like I couldn't finish the demo. That's how like intense it was. I was like, oh my God. And then I, obviously because I hate myself in some respect, clearly, I went to watch people's playthroughs. I'm like, oh, this is so cool, but oh my God, no. It was just, yeah, there's something about me that like, you know, it'd be cool to be part of that. It's just so unhinged and gruesome that actually being a performer in that would be really fun. I like acting that really elicits a response. I love those moments where you know this is gonna make people have a really strong reaction. Like I said, Five Nights at Freddy's, my favorite thing with Gregory is at the end of Ruin, spoiler alert. It's been out for over a year, okay, so I'm not even gonna say. At the end of Ruin, Gregory basically comes in, or at least like we don't know whether it's Gregory or not, but it's my voice either way. I think the girl, like he's supposed to be helping her, Cassie, get out, and she's in an elevator. Instead of taking her out, he's like, I can't let you leave, and drops the elevator. And there's like a whole little monologue where she realizes, and he says like, I can't let you leave. And I'm like, reading that, I'm like, goosebumps. Because I know that people are not expecting it, and people are going to freak out when that's happened. I'm like, those are my moments, and horror lets you do those moments. Like, oh no, they didn't.
You talk about those moments, and Gabrielle, and you had some one of the biggest moments, especially before the movie was released in the trailer with the cheese grater. What is it? What is what are your feelings on those moments that grab people?
Well, I mean, for one, when I was originally reading everything that my character went through, I didn't fully grasp that I was going to have to be the one to do it. I mean, logically I knew, but actually experiencing it was like a whole other like thing. I mean, I realized I was like, oh, I'm gonna have to do this. I'm gonna have to be lit on fire, and I'm gonna have to, destroy someone's calf with a cheese grater, and I'm gonna have to eat glass, and I'm gonna have to get like stabbed through the head. But as I was reading it, because I wasn't like fully immersed in it yet, I was actually cringing at every little thing. Like it wasn't me yet, so I'm just imagining this happening, and I'm cringing, and I just, God. And those moments that you were talking about where you're like, oh God, they're gonna, like you know what their reaction's gonna be. I had that when I read the cheese grater scene for the first time, because it's something that so many people just, if you're using it, it's just like a medallion or whatnot. If you're using it, your first thing is, oh God, please don't cut myself. Oh God, please don't cut myself. And it just kind of came out of nowhere. It came out of nowhere. I mean, it's just one of the things that I get thrown, and to catch it, it's so quick, and you realize what's about to happen, but there's no time to prepare yourself for it, and you see it happening, and it hurts. Like you can feel it. It's one of those things where you'll never look at it the same again. When you're in the kitchen, or when you're in a store with a kitchen section, you're gonna look at it and you're gonna feel your skin crawl. Right. And I absolutely loved it, because I mean, we're all afraid of knives. We've all seen, stabbing scenes and whatnot, but the cheese grater was just so creative.
Visceral.
Oh no, absolutely, it's gruesome. And then I also freaked out when I realized I would have to actually catch it, because it wasn't going to be a fake cheese grater. They had it on a little fishing line, and I can't catch. The only thing I can catch is a freaking cold. So I'm sitting here, and they have it on a little fishing line, and I mean, for how like fast-paced of a scene it is, filming it was actually very anticlimactic because we're just kind of like sitting here, cameras here, and then they just gently toss it. And I can't look at it. I can't like look at it coming at me. So I just have to like stare dead ahead and then try and catch it with my hand. And I'm like, I'm gonna cut myself. But I got it eventually, which was, I wanted, when I caught it, I wanted to like yell out in excitement. I was like, oh, yay. But I realized, I was like, no, I'm not doing this again. I just save the take. This is the one we've got to use because I'm not going to be able to catch it again.
Hashtag actor's life.
Yeah, no.
So, what did you do today?
Yeah,
well, I had to catch a...
The question is, how many takes?
Oh, God. Too many. That's my answer. Too many. I mean, that's literally what all my day was. If someone asked me, like, oh, you know, what did you do today? I'd be like, I sat there for hours and hours trying to catch a cheese grater.
Without looking.
Right, exactly. And for anyone who knows me, I mean, like, I told them that and be like, oh, yeah, this is what I had to do. They're like, oh, God, Gabby, oh, no, not you. That they gave that to the worst person. Like, gave that responsibility to the worst person I could think of. So.
Did you enjoy doing some of the stunts on the...
Oh, absolutely. You mentioned this earlier, a little bit of martial arts. I also got into that. When I was 5, I started doing kickboxing, and then when I got older, started doing a little bit of Muay Thai and Krav Maga, which is really fun. But I love being physically active. So any time I got a chance to do stunts, I ran with it. Like anything that they would allow me to do, I wanted to do. So the whole like crawling off the countertop scene, they didn't know that I was going to be able to do that. Like Lee Cronin had no idea what my background was. And, you know, they were kind of talking through it, you know, how they were going to figure it out. And eventually I was just like, well, what if I just like do this? And they're like, well, what do you mean? I said, hold on, wait. And I just hopped up on the countertop and I did it. And they just kind of stood back like, you can do that? And I was like, well, yeah, I was a ballet dancer. And they were like, oh, okay, does that hurt? And I'm like, well, yeah, but I mean, it's okay.
That is the most ballet dancer sentence ever uttered. Like, does it hurt? Yeah, but...
Listen,
life hurts.
My teachers always used to say, that pain you feel, it's a figment of your imagination. Ignore it. It's fine. So, I mean, anything like the whole, like, getting thrown back into the dishwasher, I was lit on fire, and they had my stunt double, Megan Morrison, do that. But she talked to me afterwards, and she asked me, she said, if they would have let you, like, do that scene, like, if you know, put the whole, like, suit on and everything, would you have done it? Would you have, like, been lit on fire? I said, oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I love that stuff. I love the adrenaline rush, and I love how it puts you in the moment, because oftentimes as an actor, you're very focused on what's going on up here. And sometimes you can overthink it. But when you're in the middle of doing something very physical and that you could also get hurt with, it kind of takes you out of that and you're more focused on your safety as opposed to your performance. So everything, at least for me, this has been my experience, everything came a bit more natural because I'm more focused on the flame, the open flame next to me, the fact that the surface I'm on is very slippery with sharp objects, or the fact that I could just face plant 5 feet down at any moment, you know? So it just, I don't know, it helps put me in the moment a lot more and take my mind off of the performance itself.
Marta, you talked about doing stunts as well. Can you talk about your love of doing stunts?
Yeah, no, there's a lot of that. And honestly, the whole part of like how it takes you out of this. So what I've done and where I've built my career mainly, I don't have my face. I have everything other than my face available to me as a tool, right? The exact opposite. So in mocap, especially, you're on a 360 angle all the time. It's like you're being shot from every direction on a wide, everything's being captured. And so you can't be relying on your face ever, ever, ever. And so it's the exact opposite, but like stunts then give you that opportunity to do something a little bit more interesting. But yeah, my introduction to stunts was that zombie show. And we had a rule that like the main cast had to stop. It says zombies, we have to keep coming at the crowd, otherwise you break the immersion, right? You have to keep that tension up. And they had blank firing guns, and sometimes those guns on like 4 show days would jam. And they had to improv. So I'll never forget one time, like there's this whole thing of like, one of the other actors was late coming into the scene. I'm already through. I'm like sort of lumbering towards him. I'm like already locked eyes with my victim and going towards and I'm like, where is he showing up? He's supposed to come behind me and then like shove me out the door. He's not here. The other guy starts realizing he's not here. Okay, well I'm gonna shoot her. He takes the gun, shoots at me. It jams. Takes the other gun, points at me. It jams. I can't stop. I'm still going. I'm starting to get into swinging distance with this person. Like, am I gonna get punched? What are we gonna do here? And I just hear this roar behind me. Go, ah! Dude, tackles me straight up into the corner of the room, fully straddles me. I'm right next to the wall there. Takes the butt of the gun and starts punching a hole into the side of the wall next to my head. And I'm there like, like, that was my intro to stunts. It was great. And I thought, like, that was interesting. Also, that was super fun. And, I ended up training up, and we did a lot of stage combat. We led a lot of trained like the Marvel touring show. We did some wrestling training. We did like all these different people. We even trained a little bit with the Jackie Chan stunt team and whatnot. And like, I'm not at that level, but I mean, you pick up a lot of tips, a lot of things. And one thing you learn in this kind of training is how to fall really, really, really well. And how to fall repeatedly, like 20 times over, and get up and do it again and be ready to go 20 times more and still walk the next day. Or like a lot of stunts actually is falling. It's falling or hitting the wall or hitting something. That's what like 90% of your work is. And so in motion capture, it's going away a little bit now with AI and mocap libraries. Right. And I'm not lamenting that one bit because it's hard work, but a lot of the times mocap work is the locomotion shoots, not the cinematics. So locomotion shoots are shoots that do all the in-game animations. That is when you're playing. So the turns, 45 degrees right, 90 degrees right, 125 right, like all the way to 180 and the other way. And every single thing needs to be recorded and inserted into the game, including every time maybe you're in an FPS game and you're shooting all those different like NPCs or whatever. Everyone falls differently. All those falls had to be recorded. So we'll do, everything hit to the right side, hit to the left side, hit to the head, whatever it is, all the melee, all of that. And so, I spent days and days and days just beating the crap out of each other in a safe way.
Of course.
Yeah, so that's how I got my stunt work in. And then film-wise, also for the movie I Am Rage, which is like an action thriller, we didn't have stunt doubles for that because independent. We just went fully on. They hired us because all of us had stunt and fight experience. And we had an amazing stunt coordinator with us. And we just went for it. Yeah, we did some risky stuff. I've never done a burn. I don't really fancy doing a burn, but I've done a lot of wire work. I've done also horse stunts. I had to do a lot with horses. But yeah, so that's my stunt background. I do it less now because once I got into my 30s, I realized that I don't bounce as well as I used to. I don't take those 20 hits as easily as I used to. And getting younger, I got a few injuries, not necessarily from stunts, one from stunts, but nothing too drastic. And it's still so much fun. So much fun. I've been watching some of the wrestling, and like the previous con I was at also had a wrestling league. And I'm like, oh man, I want to go in there. Just a little clothesline.
Oh, come
just
on.
A little.
We'll do it up tonight.
Still
we'll
mild,
do it up
like
tonight.
suplexing. That's fine. So just to get it out of my system, What's a headlock between friends? Fine.
Right. Something you mentioned earlier, you mentioned something in passing, and that is Lord of the Rings. Gabrielle, you got to film in New Zealand.
Yes, I did.
I'm so jealous.
What was that like? I mean, first, when did you find out that's where the principal filming was going to be?
Well, I actually found out when I got the audition, because originally they were only going to hire actors from both New Zealand and Australia, because this was during COVID times where they had gone on lockdown, but then they were getting a little more lenient because New Zealand was at 0 cases for COVID, and they created what was called the bubble between Australia and New Zealand. So everyone could go to and from Australia and New Zealand. They just had to get tested, so they didn't have to do the whole 10 or I think it was 14-day quarantine. But I was a little sneaky because part of my team is in Australia, so they got the audition for it, and I got it, and I went ahead and I did it. I was lucky that the character is supposed to have an American accent, so when they sent it off to casting, they just thought I was doing a really good American accent. And they were like, oh, no, yeah, I mean, the director wants to talk to her. Is she in New Zealand or is she in Australia? And they were just kind of like, well, that's the thing. Neither. And at first she was kind of like, come on, why would you send me her? Like, why would you send me this if, I'm going to have to say no? But I had already worked with someone on the production on something else beforehand, and they're like, okay, well, you should have led with that. And then everything kind of went from there in the casting process. So I was very, very, very fortunate in that aspect. But when we got there, I didn't get to see much of it for the first few days because I was just stuck in this little quarantine prison. But afterwards, everything I saw, even just on the drive to the hotel and then on the drive to the apartment and whatnot, everything was just absolutely breathtaking and gorgeous. And I remember that Lucy Lawless, who was Rob Tappert, yeah, absolutely, who is Rob Tappert's wife. This was pre-production, and she kind of went to me and she was like, "Do you want to Monday? What are you doing?" I said nothing, and she was like, "Be ready at 9:45. We're gonna go out and I'm gonna show you a few things." And I was like, "Okay, sure." So she got to my place. She had her dog Dino, absolutely just sweet thing. And she was like, "Okay." She took me to Bethel's Beach, which is a black sand beach. And I swear to God, it is something straight out of a video game. Honestly, it was gorgeous. I went there, I think 3 or 4 times in my entire time of being there, and every time I went, it just it never got old, ever. I mean, the waves crashing up against the rocks, and the way that the tide went up and went down, just the water, and I mean, it was. We were there for I think 8 hours, each time we went. It was just so unbelievably beautiful. There were caves and whatnot, and I mean, aside from just Bethel's Beach, all of New Zealand is gorgeous, and most people who I've met have spoken about how New Zealand is a destination spot for them. They've always wanted to go there, and I realized how lucky I was to get to live there for 6 months and experience all of it, and learn all the local places, all the wonderful places to eat. I mean, the food there is just superb. So, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't have traded that experience for anything. It was amazing.
Did you get a chance to visit the Shire filming locations at all?
I did not.
Now you got to go back.
I know. I'm looking for every excuse to go back. Trust me.
Did you have a question, or are you just not able to sit?
Waiting for cue.
All right, step right up to the microphone. Step right up to the microphone.
I had to ask my friend Marta this. How in the world did you do Roxy's voice? I'm trying to learn how to do it for this cosplay.
I mean, I'm cheating because it's quite close to my natural speaking voice. So I just kind of lower my voice down here, and then they put this modulation over it. So that's a bit of computer trickery, but yeah. So yeah, it's just basically me and my slightly lower register. I'm the best, and then I get very egotistical.
That makes sense. Sorry, I just figured to ask. I have voice
Oh, no.
Sorry,
Of course,
I'm
of
cheating.
course.
I don't have any other special tips or tricks.
You're good. A friend of mine was telling me I sound like her, and I was like, how?
I mean, look, yeah, it's just about the voice is very malleable, so it just takes a lot of practice, and you can push it in a lot of different directions.
Thank you for your question. That's why the microphone is there. So let me ask both of you, especially you, Marta, since your background clearly isn't the United States. Let me ask you about Halloween traditions. Do you have any? How big was Halloween even a thing growing up? Nope.
No, we don't have Halloween. Halloween's very I guess, Anglo-Saxon, like that kind of thing. So I'm from a very different part of the world, like, you know, Slavic. But no, so we have Carnival. Mardi Gras for us is actually this holiday that we dress up for, and it's tied to a little bit of a pagan tradition that was around chasing winter away. So people don't go spooky. You dress up, but you dress up in bright colors. You dress up in really flamboyant costumes. There's a lot of really old school stuff, like that looks really scary and weird. That involves a lot of sheepskins. It's weird. But a lot of great food and a lot of dancing, a lot of loud music, a lot of noise. And yeah, it's scaring winter away because we're an alpine country. Okay. So we have extremely cold winters and very hot summers. And so the winters can be very, very hard. Even though we're very, very far west, people hear Slovenia and they're like, oh, is that near Russia? Nowhere near Russia. We're next to Italy, if that gives you an idea. But yeah, so it's around that. But obviously, because globalization, everything, people know what Halloween is, and some people do engage, but it's not a thing. In the UK, it is. Right. And actually, have my nieces coming over for the first time for Halloween, so we're gonna do something. Yeah,
oh, that's awesome.
So sweet.
It's so cute. They're so excited. They're 10 and 6, and like they're like, oh my god, we get to see Halloween and everything. Oh, I'm like already decorating my apartment. I'm going fully into it, man.
Yeah,
yeah. I mean, within reason, they're kids, but there's not going to be blood smeared on the windows or anything. But
yeah,
I mean, or maybe
that's next year. That's next year. Gabrielle, you have any Halloween traditions?
Oh yeah, I mean, well, when I was younger, my family went all in. We were pretty fortunate that our house was kind of on like a hill, and the street it's on is naturally very dark, so. I remember there was one time where my parents decided that we were going to kind of do sort of like this immersive sort of thing with kids coming up to get candy. So they have to like walk all the way up these like really narrow steps to get up onto the hill, and then walk a little more forward and then walk up the porch. So my dad sat in a rocking chair with a chainsaw in his hands, and he took like the actual chain off of it, so it couldn't like really do anything, but he still cranked it up. But he sat there with like his full costume on, and we had like a sheet in the front yard where they had like my mom smear blood on her hands, put her hands there and drag them down, and then I did the same thing, so it was like little kid handprints. And then my older brother was out on the side with another chainsaw, because we also had a very long like alleyway type driveway. And I just remember that there was this group of teenagers, God bless them. They came up, and my dad was perfectly still. They thought that he was like a decoration. And as soon as they got close enough, he cranked up the chainsaw, stood up, and they ran. The issue was that they tried to run down the alleyway towards down the driveway. But then my older brother came around, and then they couldn't go that way, and he's literally chasing them. We are so lucky that they didn't get mad at this, because two of them ended up running down the hill and rolling. They started rolling down the hill, and I just remember I was like 7 years old or something, but they were all in like this like van type hatchback thing. All of them ran into there, closed the door, and the poor soul that like rolled off the hill too fast got up in his like dizziness, ran into the side of the van and knocked himself out. And my dad's a doctor, so he saw that and was like, no, and so ran down there, made sure he was okay. But yeah, my family, they get very into it.
That just kept going.
Oh no,
it was so good.
It was so bad. Also, we had a cellar around the house, and most houses like don't have like an outside cellar. Right. I mean, I grew up in a over 100-year-old bungalow in the historical part of Atlanta, so I took them around to the back. I was like, do you want to see inside the cellar? And I like opened it up, and it's creepy as all hell. So they were all just like,
no. But I love coming to the States this time of year, just because people go so hard on the decorations. Like it's so good. Yes. It's so good. I wish we had more of that over there. It's totally my jam. But yeah.
So we just have a couple minutes left here. So let me ask you, the both of you involved in projects with a very passionate fan base. How is it for you to be a part of these projects, whether it's Five Nights, whether it is Evil Dead, and be able to hear the stories from people that come up to your tables?
Well, in my case, for one, I feel very welcomed, especially since Evil Dead Rise, though it is a part of the Evil Dead franchise, it's, there's no Ash, there's no, well, there is a little bit of a cabin, but it's not like based in a cabin. There's a lot of things that are new and different, and especially when you have a fan base as, as strong and as passionate as Evil Dead does,
right.
It kind of comes along with the whole mentality of if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And hey, listen, I absolutely agree with that as well. But, I knew with making something that was pretty different from the original Evil Dead films and
right.
projects, that there was a lot of pressure to at least be on par with them. We had big shoes to fill, and though we were doing something different, we still tried to pay homage to the original Evil Dead and try and put in little Easter eggs that, like, original fans would see and would appreciate. But I was pleasantly surprised at the reaction after the film came out. I said, all right, people are either going to hate this or they're going to love it, and we're going to hear about it. We're going to find out. And I remember being very, very happy after it came out, hearing the reaction from people who were like, you know what, they were so honest with it as well. Like, they were like, you know what, I thought this was going to be absolutely horrible, but I actually really enjoyed it. And I was like, you know what, I appreciate you so much for giving it a chance and, like, maybe realizing, because if you see it and you don't like it, oh, well, that's totally fine. But you gave it a shot, and that's all that really matters, and I thank you for that. So, yeah, it's nice to be a part of a community that really does care about the quality of film, and they're amazing. I love meeting all of you. I love meeting you guys in public, and when you come up to my table and just getting to talk about it.
I mean, like, the Five Nights at Freddy's fandom is incredible, completely insane. I never know what to expect. There's a few people here that have thoroughly surprised me already, and it's in the best way. It's an absolute best way. I mean, everything from the cosplay to the how people identify with the characters, and a lot of people say these are their comfort characters, or they have been of some comfort to them in some way. It's really overwhelming at times, and it all came at me so fast. Like, when Security Breach came out, it was like a tidal wave coming at me. It was a lot. I was used to being under the radar, and all of a sudden everything changed. But everybody's been so accepting and so welcoming, and seeing all the smiling faces coming up at cons or anywhere else, on social media, it's been great. And same now that I've entered another fandom with Valorant, it's still new and surprising every time. I never take this for granted, never, and never will. This is something incredibly special, and I appreciate every single person who takes the time to take an interest in my work. That it just comes down to that. I had the first time somebody to come ask me for a autograph based on my movies, not my game work, and I was like, oh my God, you've seen my movies? Oh my God, yeah. So it's been, that's what I'll say. I'll never take it for granted, and eternally grateful.
So one last question. Would you like to take a big group selfie, big photo with all our fans here?
Let's do it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, let's do a little stage selfie here. So if you guys want to gather up over here by the stage, we're going to take a little photo here.